Right, I'm back. Now, this video is going to be about a tool, or making a tool. This thing is a hot wire foam cutter. It's a cheap one, 15 bucks off eBay, and it's a piece of crap. It doesn't do what I want. It takes quite a high voltage, 5 to 6 volts, and it still barely cuts. So we're going to make another one. Now, part of my issue with the foam cutter is I buy my foam in big panels from Bunnings. So it's 1200ml by 600ml. And cutting it either way with this thing is difficult. Not only because it's crap and takes forever to cut, but because you can't cut straight. It likes to wander around. So I'm going to try and make something that doesn't do that, in theory. I have no idea if this is going to work. So the idea is piece of wood, nichrome wire around the front, and then a piece of, in my case, acrylic, because I couldn't work out how to cut the saw blade with the tools that I had. There'll also be obviously a switch and battery pack. So the idea with this, the nichrome wire is on the front. This piece of acrylic here acts as a sort of a blade, like what is on table saws. On a table saw you have the blade itself with all the spiky teeth, and then you have a knife bladey thing, I can't remember what it's called, but basically it's there to stop the wood from pinching the blade and causing problems. Essentially the same idea with this piece of acrylic. Ideally a saw blade would be better because it'd be a lot thinner, but again, I couldn't cut the saw blade with the tools that I had, or tools that I currently have. So this is what I'm going to attempt to make. We have our wood, no particular size, but saying someone is eventually going to ask, possibly, like 80 ml, like 65, and then it's 19. They're both roughly the same size. The acrylic, this is just white acrylic. I had a spare, I have to obviously cut it down. And we have nichrome wire. This is for the actual cutter. I've got 4 different ones here, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 mil. I don't know which one I'm going to use. I have to experiment. 18650 battery holder. That's if my 18650s are any good. I pulled them out of an old battery charger bank, power bank thing. This isn't scripted, so I'm going to screw up. Yeah, so I'm not even sure if they're going to work, but we'll try them. Little toggle switch. I may not use this one, I've got to find my other ones, but we'll see. And then hardware for the wire, washers, wing nut, M4 bolts with nuts, but the problem is with the M4 bolts, they're 20mm, the wood is 19mm, so I'm going to have to countersink them and countersink the nut to make sure I have enough room to put the wing nuts on with the washers, because the washers are going to be what clamp down the wire. So right now I will cut the slot for that in this, and I'll be back. I'm back. Now, I may have gone a little bit meat-hook abortion-y on the wood. Yeah, that wasn't actually the plan. Oops. So I have to bulk up the acrylic on each side so it'll actually make a friction fit. But that also brings another problem. I have to use a lot more epoxy. So that's kind of annoying. But as for right now, I need to drill the holes for the nuts. So, drill bit. I'm using a brad point drill bit because it will give me, the point on the drill bit will give me a pilot hole to drill through the rest of it and the epoxy to put the bolt in. That one. I'm gonna make a mess now. Good enough. So, I don't know how long this is going to take to dry. Sometimes this stuff dries within 5 minutes. It's meant to be 5-minute epoxy. Other times it takes 3 hours. Cheap epoxy. But I'll be back once this bit's dry. Right, electronics time. So, this is pretty simple. Positive to the battery through a switch. Negative and positive then to the washers wherever I put them. And that's about it. So, let's do it. Test 100. This is MG Chemicals 6337 lead-based solder. None of that lead-free shite, because nobody's got time for that. And yes, I realise I should probably heat shrink these wires, but I can't be bothered. Whenever you're soldering to a different kind of metal, you have to add flux. It's always good to add flux onto the wire as well. Sometimes some wires won't take it. They won't take the solder, which is always annoying. So I have to reflex here. I put solder onto the joint. One of those. So reflow. Solder on each thing, and then you just melt them together. And that is one connected on. And that's basically the electronics done. So that's an 18650 cell holder. And this should, in theory, work. For anyone interested, 18650 charger. Cheapo charge circuit off eBay. One of these holders. VHB. Double-sided tape. I'll be back to put it all together later. Ready to see this monstrosity? I warn you, it's ugly. Yes. It's ugly. It does work. Well, it worked before I broke the solder joint. Anyway, so the way this thing works is the nichrome wire goes through the foam and the acrylic in theory, stops it from binding around the foam and gives you more support when you push it through, so that you can have a fence, or more or less something like a fence, like a guide on the top, so you can make a really easy straight cut. The aluminium foil here, foil tape stuff, is to stop the wire from burning the wood, and the Captain tape on here is to make it easier for the acrylic to go in. This is sharpened, you can't really see it, but it's sharpened and it's not very smooth. It'll bind on the acrylic, on the foam without the tape. And this tape here is just to give it a slick surface to ride along the top of the foam. And the electronic side of things is the positive washer, positive terminal at the top, ordinarily through a switch if I actually heat shrunk the join, but whatever, to the 18650, and then the negative is just to the other washer. And this is 0.6mm nichrome wire, if I didn't already say that. Generic 18650. So now let's, I suppose, test it and see what happens, even though I've already recorded testing it. Anyway, testing it. I'd say that looks a hell of a lot better. Than that. Right, so now you've seen the test, which obviously didn't go as I was expecting. I thought it would ride along the guide without too much of a problem, but that didn't happen. Cable got caught as it went in. When the foam, when it cuts through the foam, it makes the foam expand a little bit because it's pulling away from the heat. I thought that would be enough for the acrylic to slide in nice and easily. It didn't, it was binding, and the foil tape up here didn't really do a whole hell of a lot to help it slide along easily. So yes, there's a few things to fix. First and foremost will be this can't be flat. It needs to stick out a little bit from the wire. I should have realised this earlier. It needs to stick out a little bit from the wire so it can sit on top of the foam first, and then the wire can engage it. Otherwise you get this messing around when it tries to engage on the foam and it doesn't cut straight. So that's the first thing that needs to be fixed. The next thing is I need to find some kind of material that can handle the temperature and is slick enough so that I don't have to mess around with this. I think Teflon, PTFE, you can get boards of it. Should be high enough temperature to handle it, and it should be slick enough. I'm not sure how expensive it is, I haven't looked at it yet. The next thing is this. This has been the biggest problem. Acrylic's too thick. This is the thinnest acrylic I have, which is, I think, 1 or 2 mil. I'll put it on the screen after I measure it, I can't remember. But it's too thick. This needs to be a piece of metal, preferably steel. Just because steel won't flex and bend like aluminium will. And obviously it still needs to be sharpened to a point. I did say at the start of the video that I have a saw blade that I was going to cut and use for this. I just couldn't cut it. Saw blades are hardened and they're difficult to cut. There's not many things that will cut them. A grinder will, I don't have one. A Dremel will, but it will take hours and you'll go through heaps of blades. And obviously cutting a saw blade with a saw blade that is hardened, it doesn't really work. Not easily anyway. So when I rebuild this, I will use a saw blade. I'll probably use tin snips or something to cut it, or I might buy a grinder, I don't know. I'll work it out. The other thing is, because I'm using all metal hardware, I'm using washer soldered to the wire to make the electrical connection to the nichrome wire. All of this, the washer, the wing nut, the nut itself, and the nut that is under it in the wood, all heats up on both sides. Probably not the best thing when your hand is right there. And yeah, that little tag of wire also heats up. So I need to work out a better way of doing this, possibly insulating it. I was thinking maybe a bit of Captain tape on the base, then the washer with the electrical connection, then the wire, and then the other washer, but the other washer has Captain tape on it, and if at all possible, Captain tape on the threads, but there's really not that much room to put it there. Or I find some other way of sticking it down without having a bolt through and then a wing nut and a washer, and we'll work it out. A single 18650 is more than enough to power this tiny bit of wire. This is 55mm in here, plus maybe another 10mm. No, wouldn't be another 10mm. I think this is like 70mm, possibly. So, I don't know, it's not much. Single 18650 powers it, heats it up, not a problem. As I said, this is the 0.6mm. I have 4 other ones here. 0.4 didn't make a big enough slot for the acrylic. 0.3 obviously didn't either. 0.6 did, but only really just. So yeah, this is the main problem. Another thing, when you're cutting this, you've got to be mindful of the fumes. Obviously this stuff isn't really designed to be melted. Realistically, a lot of it's fire resistant. It gives off toxic fumes, so you need to use this in a well ventilated area, unlike I was. Ordinarily I'd wear a respirator, but I was doing voiceover and everything. But for a proof of concept, this works. This is exactly what I was thinking. It does what I want, more or less. It just now needs to be refined. So I will be doing that in the future. I don't know when. I've got another one of these sort of hot foam cutters that I want to try and make. I might even try making something that's a bit better than this thing. I know I can buy the hot wire foam factory ones, but to get the pro kit in Australia is like $450. It's pretty expensive, and realistically these are very, very simple to make. Obviously the hot wire foam factory ones will be much better quality, but again, $400 or $500 I could probably make every single one in the pro kit for $100, maybe 200. And I would know exactly how they work. I would know their flaws, and I could more or less improve them if that was needed. But yeah, this thing for ripping down big sheets into rough sizes for diorama bases, it works. It's compact, it's battery powered, no cords. Obviously I need to work out some bugs, shall we say, but other than that, it works. When, you know, you don't break the... Oh well. Anyway, that's it. See ya.